Why does techno dancing have no rules? If you've ever been to an industrial club, a goth night, or a techno warehouse party, you've probably noticed something strange. Everyone is dancing, but nobody is teaching anyone how to dance. There are almost no classes, very few tutorials, and no official moves. And yet, if you watch long enough, you'll start to see patterns. And that's where this story begins. Now, when it comes to EBM and industrial dancing, you can occasionally find things like competitions, dance battles, tutorials, and a lot of cybergoths showcasing their moves online. But when it comes to techno dancing, things get a lot harder to find. No competitions, no dance battles, no instructors, and yet, surprisingly, there are countless videos of people dancing in clubs and raves. The goal always seemed to be expression, not technique. People simply moved with the music, but despite this lack of structure, certain movements appear again and again and again. Stomping, arm pumping, bouncing, marching, just to name a few. Techno and industrial dancing has been recorded on dance floors for decades across clubs and cities all over the world, which raises an interesting question. If these movements exist, why were they never formalized into a teachable system? When I started researching dance tutorials online, I noticed something interesting. Looking at YouTube videos for hip-hop, house dances, and even some industrial dance styles, the comment sections were overwhelmingly positive. But when I started looking at techno dance videos, the tone was very different. A good example is the YouTube channel Das Techno Team. The creators themselves are very positive and enthusiastic about dancing. But in the comment sections, I noticed a lot of gatekeeping and a strong rejection of dance standardization. Here are a few examples. Please dance how you feel it, but don't make it commercial. Dancing comes from your own body. If you copy dance styles, it's just stupid. One comment even joked that people at raves should just, quote, let the drugs do the dancing, unquote. And this reaction actually makes sense when you understand where these scenes come from. Techno, industrial, EBM, and early rave culture grew out of the underground spaces in the late 80s and 90s. These scenes were built around underground warehouses, DIY parties, anti-mainstream attitudes, rejection of commercial club culture, and a strong emphasis on individual expression. So dancing was never meant to be something you do correctly. The dance floor was one of the few places where people could move however they wanted, without judgment. And honestly, that freedom is a beautiful thing. But documenting movement doesn't necessarily destroy that freedom. In many cases, it actually preserves it. Freedom and vocabulary aren't opposites. In most art forms, they grow together. But this idea of documenting dance movements isn't new. In fact, many of the dance styles we recognize today started the exact same way techno dancing did. Hip-hop, house dance, breaking, even shuffle. None of these styles started with official lessons or named techniques. They started in clubs, on dance floors, in basements, warehouses, and block parties. People were just moving with the music. And at first, no one had names for the movements. Dancers would see something interesting on the floor, try it themselves, add their own twist, and pass it along to someone else. Over time, certain movements kept showing up again and again. Eventually, someone would say, "Oh yeah, that's the Running Man," or "That's the Charleston," or "That's the Top Rock." And once movements had names, something interesting happened. They became easier to share, easier to teach, easier to preserve. Documentation didn't kill the creativity of those styles. If anything, it helped them survive and spread across the world. Because without some sort of documentation, movements disappear, dance floors change, clubs close, scenes evolve. But the movements that get remembered are the ones that eventually get named. Every dance style begins as chaos on a dance floor. Vocabulary comes later. So I've been dancing in industrial, goth, and techno clubs for about 20 years, probably longer if you count school dances and house parties. Believe it or not, growing up, I wasn't much of a dancer, even though I thought myself was one. In elementary school, the only formal move I knew how to do was the worm. Then in 8th grade, my social studies teacher showed me a move she used to do back in her club days. I ended up adopting that move, and it basically became my signature move for years. That was pretty much my whole dance vocabulary for a long time. But everything changed right after I graduated high school, when I started going to clubs like Czars, an electro house club, and The Castle in Ybor City, Florida. At the time, I was an aspiring DJ and already interested in electronic music and dark culture, but I had never actually seen these dance styles in person. And when I did, it completely changed how I thought about dancing. After some research and a lot of self-discovery, I realized I identified most with cybergoth culture. The only problem was, whenever I went to the club, I was often one of the only cybergoths there. Sometimes the only one. So I did what a lot of dancers in these scenes do. I watched the dance floor. I studied what other people were doing, and I tried to imitate what I saw. No tutorials, no lessons, just observation and experimentation. Over time, those movements became part of my own style, and I brought them with me to every dance floor I stepped onto. I've always loved dancing, whether I was good at it or not. I loved moving, I loved sweating, I loved waking up the next morning completely exhausted. I loved the ritual of it. And part of that ritual was dancing for as long as I physically could, or until the club closed. Growing up, I played sports and stayed very active. In a way, after high school, I traded sports for the dance floor. Outside of the occasional hike, I wouldn't become truly active again until my early 30s, after moving from Florida to Indiana. Even though I was at one of the happiest points in my life, I realized something important. I had forgotten that to move is to live. I needed to start being active again. So in 2024, I decided to start running. After about a year running, one night while I was on the dance floor, I had a thought. Every time I go dancing, I start cramping around the same point in the night. And that's when something clicked. What if I approached dancing the same way I approach running? One thing about me when I'm on the dance floor, I'm very observant. I watch myself, I watch the crowd, I watch the energy of the room. And over the years, I started noticing something. most clubs run for hours. In Tampa, clubs often go from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. In Indianapolis, many nights run from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. In places like New York, they can go from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. or even later. That means a typical club night can last 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours. But most people aren't actually dancing for that entire time. In reality, most people probably spend 1 to 2 hours total on the dance floor because something predictable happens. People jump into the music at full intensity. They dance hard for 2 or 3 songs, and then they burn out. They get tired, they start cramping, and eventually they leave the dance floor. I see it happen almost every single night. And that's when something clicked for me. A club night isn't just dancing, it's intermittent cardio. A typical night involves 4 to 6 hours of on and off movement, but most dancers approach it like a sprint. They go straight into peak intensity, and then they burn out almost immediately. But endurance athletes already know something important. If you want to last longer, you don't start at maximum effort. You pace yourself, you train your stamina, you manage your energy, and that realization sparked a question for me. What if we treated club dancing the same way we treat endurance training? And that's where dark cardio comes in. Dark cardio isn't about telling people how they have to dance. The dance floor will always belong to the dancers. People should always be free to move however they want. What dark cardio is really about is 3 things. First, documenting recognizable movement patterns that already exist in techno, industrial, and rave dance culture. Movements like stomping, arm drive, bouncing, marching, the kinds of movements you see again and again on the dance floors all over the world. Not to create rules, but to create a shared vocabulary. Second, dark cardio is about training endurance. Because if dancing really is intermittent cardio, then just like running or cycling, it's something your body can train for. You can build stamina. You can pace your energy. You can learn how to move in ways that let you last longer on the dance floor. And third, dark cardio is about encouraging healthier participation in nightlife. Things like pacing yourself, staying hydrated, understanding recovery, and learning how to enjoy long nights of dancing without burning out halfway through. In a way, dark cardio sits right at the intersection of 3 worlds: underground dance culture, movement tutorials, and endurance training. Dark cardio isn't trying to replace the culture of the dance floor. It's trying to support it. And the philosophy behind it is actually very simple. Learn the moves, train the moves, survive the night. Or simply, dance longer, dance stronger. So what does this actually look like going forward? On this channel, Dark Cardio will explore a few different things. First, movement tutorials. These videos will break down recognizable club dance movements, things like stomps, bounces, arm drives, and other patterns you see on dance floors all over the world. The goal isn't choreography. It's simply learning the building blocks of movement so dancers can develop their own style. Second, we'll explore movement chains and dance flow, because on a real dance floor, you don't just repeat one move over and over again. You transition between movements. You adjust to the music, you find a rhythm that lets you stay in motion without burning out. And third, we'll have dark cardio endurance sessions. These are longer dance workouts designed to simulate the energy of a real club night. The idea is to build stamina so that when you hit the dance floor, your body is actually prepared for it. Along the way, we'll also talk about things most people never think about when it comes to dancing. Things like pacing your energy, staying hydrated, fueling your body properly, and understanding recovery. All with one goal in mind: helping people enjoy the dance floor longer. The goal of dark cardio isn't to create rules for how people should dance. The dance floor has always belonged to the dancers. Dark cardio simply documents and celebrates the movement patterns that already exist in the underground dance culture. Movements that have lived on the dance floor for decades, but were never really named, taught, or trained. And if dancing really is endurance, then maybe it's something we can prepare for, something we can train for, something we can get better at, not to replace the freedom of the dance floor, but to help us enjoy it longer. Because at the end of the night, that's what this is really about. Music, movement, community, and the feeling of losing yourself on the dance floor. So if you've ever wanted to last all night on the dance floor, welcome to dark cardio.